Hey everybody, welcome back to our fourth and final installment of the Homeschool to College discussions. I'm Leslie Nunnery with Teach Them Diligently, and I am here once again with Phylicia Masonheimer of Liberty University, and we have had three fantastic discussions so far. We have talked about scholarships, we have talked about testing, we have talked about early preparation from college or for college. So if you are looking ahead to that transition from homeschool to college and you have not seen those other videos yet, I urge you to take the time to look at those because there is fantastic information included that I am confident will make you more secure in your abilities to help your child make that transition from homeschool to college. Today, though, we are going to discuss kind of some final things. We're going to talk about how do you choose a college, what kind of things should you look for, and then we're going to do sort of a greatest hits of some of the questions that Teach Them Diligently families have sent in and allow Phylicia to address those and teach us all in the meantime. So Phylicia, thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Leslie. It's always fun to be here and talk about college with everybody.
Good. The first thing that I would like for you to address as we get started is just an overview of, as we as Christian families are looking ahead at colleges and at choosing colleges, what are some things that we really should be looking at that we may not have thought of as we do this for the first time? What are some things that really should be on our radar, or that we should at least investigate at each school, just to make sure that our child is going to fit in well, that it's going to be a good fit for them?
That's a great question, because when you're looking at colleges, every single college is going to put their best foot forward and their best face forward. You're going to get these materials in the mail that highlight all of the best things about each college and institution, and it can be hard to know what exactly to look for in those colleges so you can narrow them down to your top 3 to 5 choices, because you really want to narrow down all of the colleges based on certain priorities that your family has. So the first thing to assess is what you as a family have as your priorities and what the students' priorities are, what they want to study, what they want to go into, what student life, things they want to have available to them, if they're interested in athletics, and then make a list of those things to look at different colleges and see if they offer what you're looking for. Once you have done that, you can then narrow down the thousands of colleges, usually to 10 or 12, and from there you want to look for a couple of things. You want to be sure that they have an academic program that fits exactly what the student is looking to go into. Now, with some majors, you have to be very specific, such as nursing and engineering. Those careers, you need to have that on your resume, a degree in that field, in order to go into those jobs. But if you are looking to go into something more along the lines of creative writing, or maybe becoming a librarian or something like that, there's more flexibility. You'd have history, you have literature, you have English. A lot of those fields will lead you into writing or into dealing with literature and books and things like that. So you have more freedom in fields like that. So you just want to look into what the college offers as far as academics. How demanding are they? What do they expect from their students? What is the student to professor ratio? Because that tells you how much time your student will receive and how much attention they'll receive from their professors. You want to see, is this professor actually teaching the class, or is he just having a GA, graduate assistant, fill in for him, and my student isn't even getting all the knowledge that this professor has? So those are some things to be looking for academically. If you're interested in athletics, look at what their athletic abilities are, what their offerings are as a school, what division they are. For instance, Liberty is NCAA Division I for the most part, but we also have club sports teams. So we have other opportunities like the equestrian team, which is a club sport. So there's a lot to offer with us as far as athletics, but some students aren't interested in athletics. They want to do dramas or a drama team. There's a lot of things to be looking for. And then the final thing to consider is the spiritual environment. Because most homeschool families do so with a Christian intent and with a Christian background, you want to be looking at colleges from the perspective of discipleship. If you've discipled your children for 18 years at home and you're now handing them off to the discipleship of a university, what is that environment going to be like? What is the spiritual environment. If it's a secular school, is there a group or a club on campus where students can get the support they need? Is there a church in the area that they can get involved with? What is available to continue that discipleship? If it's a Christian university, while they may get that discipleship in class and in convocation or chapel, they also do have to be intentional, because at a Christian university, the danger is apathy. You hear it so much that you start to forget why you believe what you believe. So both ways that you can go, you want to be looking for opportunities to really facilitate discipleship on top of the academic and athletic and student life portions of what the university is about.
Well, it's not clicking back. There it goes. It's like I'm beating the thing. Well, that was a lot to think about, and I know as I'm sitting here making notes for our own journey, some of those were things that I probably at least had not thought about yet, and don't know when I would have gotten around to. So thank you for pointing those out and kind of planting those seeds of thought in our minds for us. Now, I want to jump into some of the questions that Teach Them Diligently families have asked about making this transition and let you address them now. One of the ones that I thought was very, very interesting and a really good place to start with these is a question on pace. In homeschool, the student is accustomed to either working at his own pace, whether that be a quick pace or even a slow pace, but they're by themselves. So how would you recommend getting a child prepared for the pace of college when most of their classes haven't even been done inside of a traditional classroom, as some would think, particularly for those that have not done a dual credit course on site or a co-op, an academic co-op and that kind of thing? How would you prepare, or what would be your suggestions for getting a child ready to make that jump just from an academic pace standpoint?
That's a great question, because if a student hasn't been involved in any kind of dual enrollment, college classes, even online college classes or co-ops that offer that kind of structure, homeschooling is very flexible. I remember doing it on the trampoline before when I was growing up. And, we had a lot of flexibility where we could take a day off if we made up a day. Those things are great, and I love them about homeschooling, but that kind of structure or flexibility doesn't really exist as much in the college world. You might get 3 skips per class per semester, and you don't really want to use your skips because you need to keep up on your homework. So, it is definitely going to be an adjustment for students who have used that flexibility to its utmost capability while they were in high school. So what I would recommend doing is facilitate some of that structure at home. Now, this doesn't mean that all of the flexibility goes out the window. That's the glory of homeschooling. And if we did just school at home, then it wouldn't be homeschooling anymore. So you do want to keep that. But one of the things that we did growing up, and this was a product of too much flexibility, my parents saw that it was becoming an issue. And so they instilled this rule once I got into high school, was every Sunday, my dad would sit down and he would check our work, kind of as the supervisor of the school, so to speak. And he would make sure that we had done the modules that we were supposed to do for that week, what grades we had gotten, kind of like a weekly report card. And knowing that it was dad checking it, not just mom, somehow that was a little bit scarier. You wanted to work a little harder. Having both parents involved in it kind of helped us stay on track and know that there was some accountability. That's the same thing that's going to happen in college. When you go to class the next week, your professor's going to hold you accountable. Did you show up to class? Did you do your quizzes? Did you do your reading? So those kinds of things can be helpful. Now, of course, I'm assuming most moms do grade their students' work. They all do. They keep a transcript. They do that. So for some families, they might not need the kind of accountability that we needed in our family to make sure that all of us were getting done what we were supposed to get done. But I did find that somewhat helpful to instill some of that structure. And if a student can take a class in some kind of class environment, I think it is helpful because they will learn note-taking. They'll learn how to respond to a lecture, how to take away what they need from a lecture, and how to read, a textbook of some kind and take away what they need to from that in order to answer the questions. I think that's the hardest thing, is because homeschoolers don't sit in a lecture environment every day for 8 hours, they don't always know how to take notes once they get into college. So that could be something also to do, a little study skills seminar or class. I'm sure there are books at Rainbow Resources and things like that that can help with study skills, because that's something that can be hard to adjust to when you're sitting in a class and suddenly all the information you need is coming from a professor and he's writing on the board. Well, what do I write down? Do I write down everything, or do I write down certain points? And how do I know what points I need? So those kinds of things can be helpful to help a student with that transition from a more flexible environment to a more structured environment.
Great, great. We have this year actually implemented the same type of a policy as your family did, where my husband is checking regularly. And I think that that's just really good accountability, not just for the children, but also for mom, that things are moving in the right direction. So it has proven to be a good thing for us, and it lets dad know more of what's going on. Mm-hmm. He gets kind of the synopsis around the dinner table, but this way he's actually seeing, he knows, he's comfortable. I think it's a great thing to put in to your homeschool, no matter what stage you're at in your learning process. And another thing that we have found to address your point about note taking is if you encourage your students to take notes in church and so on, that is also getting them a little bit of a background in doing it and extracting the information that's really, really important at that point, so that they'll be better prepared when they get into either a dual credit class or a co-op class or whatever. I think that those, at least in our family, have proven to be very helpful. All right, our next question from a mom is, how does one handle transcripts? Specifically, when do you start compiling a transcript? What is going to go on it? What's really, really important? What is a college looking for? Not just your A's and B's and C's, but what else should be on a transcript that's really going to be of interest to a college as they're looking at the admissions application?
That's probably the top question that I receive on the road, is what to do with transcripts, how to format them, what they should look like and contain. So with transcripts, every college is going to have a different requirement. However, most colleges that I've run into are just looking for the same general format. They want to see all 4 years of high school reflected, or 3 if the student is currently a junior and applying to the school. They want to see the classes that were taken in each year, the letter grade and the number grade. So A is a 4.0, B is a 3.0, C is a 2.0. If your score is weighted, so say you took an advanced placement exam or class and it weights your GPA, some colleges will look at your transcript with a weighted GPA. Liberty unweights the GPA just because we have students from a wide variety of schools. And because of that, some of them come from 8-point scales, 10-point scales, so we just unweight the GPA in general. An A is an A, a B is a B. So once you have all the years of high school, you have all the classes that were taken, and you have the grades, we're also going to be looking for this parent's signature because they are technically the supervisor of the school. We're also going to look for their graduation date. So if they haven't graduated yet, we'd want to see their prospective graduation date from the homeschool. And then the final thing that we look for is the homeschool addendum. And all this is a statement saying that the parent has abided by all of their state regulations for a homeschool education, and the student has had the equivalent of a secondary education at home. And we have a sample transcript right on our website. It's liberty.edu/homeschool. Anybody can take a look at it, download it. It's a PDF format, and they can kind of use that as a guide. It's really just a one-page Word document that's then signed and scanned into a PDF. So it's really quite simple in the end. Now, some families like to use certain templates. For instance, I'll run into certain states that obviously issue a homeschool state organization transcript template, because everybody from that state will send like the same transcript. So I know that they're getting something from their state organization. And that is awesome because that gives them a template they can work with. So that works too. You know, there's no set template that you have to use, but we really do want to see basically what I just listed, what coursework was done, what grades were achieved. Extracurriculars can be listed on there. They're not required at Liberty. Now, with some schools, that can be helpful if you're looking to get into leadership positions. It can be helpful for resumes when you're applying for jobs or positions on campus. So, it's something to definitely keep track of, but it's not necessary on an actual academic transcript. So really what we're just looking for is that final GPA for each semester and the proof with the grading of what they got. Now, I know that some families are more unschooling than homeschooling. Some colleges will consider a student without a transcript. They are pretty few and far between. So even if you are the more of the unschooling route, do try to keep some form of records from 9th grade on so that we know what your student had. And that's just good in general because we don't know how long the government will be as friendly as it is towards homeschoolers. Right now we have a lot of freedom in the US. We do have, a lot of the states, especially on the eastern seaboard here, we're very free. We have very little regulation. There's no promise that that's going to continue. So it is worthwhile to keep your records just to be on the safe side and to help you once you get to the college transition.
Great. Well, my next question then would be, how early can classes be put on a transcript? Let's say that my son starts taking algebra and some of the core credits in 7th and 8th grade because he's advanced. Or just because that's the way that the path has taken him. At what point is it better to just kind of push them all forward and have them as 9th grade? Or do you note that they are 8th grade or early credits of some sort?
I would say if the student did them in 8th grade, and I've seen that. I've seen Algebra 1 done in 8th grade, which is better than I did in high school. So kudos to those students. When a student does it early, I have seen the parent list 8th grade, Algebra 1 and English 1. And then in 9th grade, Algebra 2. So I've seen it done that way. That is fine to list all 5 years just so that you can see on the transcript that the student did do Algebra 1, because that's something that we like to see, especially prior to them taking the SAT or ACT, because those tests have Algebra 1 on it, on them. The only thing I would mention is there's a couple of ways you could do this, and I've seen it all these ways. This is another nice thing about homeschooling. The student could do the 8th grade Algebra 1 if they weren't going to do math their senior year. So they did it in 8th grade and they get 3 credits of math and they don't take a math their senior year because they did it in 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th. So they did 4 credits. They did 4 different maths. So their senior year, they don't even do a math. Well, if that's on the transcript, we see 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and there's no math in the senior year, or it looks like Algebra 1 is missing, then that's an instance where I'd say put the 8th grade on there. Put the 8th grade year on there so we see that your student actually did this. It was just prior to high school. Or a family, I have seen families where the student took it in 8th grade, but they just put it on 9th grade because he did it. And then he went into 9th grade. So as long as it shows that he did the work, really that's what we're looking for. You could do it either way. You could put the 8th grade on there, or you could add it as a 9th grade achievement. Great.
Another question that I have for you then is about admissions packets. That's a little bit overwhelming, I think, for many of us because admission to our homeschool is pretty easy. So what all is generally involved in an admissions packet for a college? Is that information generally pretty easily accessible? And is that something that you see homeschool families not having a whole lot of trouble with, or is that something that we do struggle with and we need to really, really intentionally look towards and prepare for?
Homeschool families don't usually struggle with this. They usually get all of their materials in early, and they're usually very well put together. So I would say the things that we look for at least are transcripts that we just discussed, your test scores from the ACT or your SAT. We look for an admissions essay and your application. So those are the 4 main things that we need. If the student dual enrolled at a college, we want their college transcripts as well. Now, we personally do not look for letters of recommendation. We will accept them, but we don't require them to make an admissions decision. Some colleges will want letters of recommendation as well, but their general packet will probably be about the same. They'll probably want an admissions essay. They'll have an application with an application fee. They'll want your transcripts, and they'll want your test scores. And then they may ask for those extra letters of recommendation or reference on top of that. Some colleges will have further requirements, depending on the nature of the school and, how specialized they are. If it's Harvard or if it's a specific denomination, they might have extra things that they want to have submitted. But overall, the packet would be usually that essay, application, transcripts, and test scores.
Gotcha. Well, before we kind of wind down, is there anything else that you would really like to tell the homeschool families, or something else that you hear a lot while you're out on the road that is on a lot of people's mind, even if they haven't submitted the questions to me? I had a lot more questions, but you've actually already covered them in one of our first 3 or through some of your answers here, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to double up on them. But I'm sure that you get a lot of other questions, or you see a lot of other pitfalls or opportunities that this would be a great time to kind of tell us about as we're finishing up these discussions.
Sure. Well, one of the things I would say is that for homeschool moms, I think a lot of times you're really hard on yourselves. You think you're doing worse than you are. And it's especially when your oldest child is looking towards college, it's a very confusing process, and it's a big unknown, and you don't want to mess it up. I remember my mom feeling that way. So when you're looking forward towards the college process, first of all, I would say to the majority of homeschool moms, you're doing better than you know. You're doing better than you think you are. You probably think, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of flying blind. I've never taken calculus, and my son is doing calculus. How do I handle this? Ask for help. Get some tutors. Ask for other homeschool students to help. That's something that we did growing up. That was very helpful to me. I was not good at math. I needed help. I got a homeschooled guy who was great at math to tutor me. There's a lot of things that you can do and you can implement. You have that flexibility, and you're not shortchanging your child. You're giving your child this great opportunity by discipling them, by giving them this foundation to build on when they do go from homeschool on to college, however you choose to do that, whether it's dual enrollment and CLEP testing or your university or whatever it is that you do. So, don't beat yourself up. You're definitely doing a great thing here in the lives of your kids. And for the students, they just need to be encouraged to continue working hard and appreciating their education and seeing that what they're doing now really does have a huge, tremendous effect on their future and their future plans. So this time is really setting them up for success, and how hard they're willing to work now will pay off in their early and mid to late 20s when they are going out into the job market or starting their own business. So every little thing they're doing now is helping them in building towards that future that they're going to have. And they just need to be diligent and see that at some point that the diagramming sentences does pay off eventually.
Well, I am sure that all of us just cheered as you told us that you're doing better than we think, because you're right. It's very easy to be very hard on ourselves. And the unknowns of doing this the first time in particular are overwhelming. And so thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, to answer the questions. I have found these chats to be incredibly helpful and insightful. I just selfishly have gained so much, and I hope and pray that the rest of you out there who are looking at making the same transition that our family is getting ready to make, that these discussions have been very, very helpful for you as well. You'll find that on our website that we have more information. There's an ebook of some of these answers that we've put together for you that you can download. We also will be making all of these videos available for you on our website, teachthemdiligently.net, and you'll be able to find them there. And then on site, Liberty is always there with some great information as well. So make sure you join us on site. At this point, I think Phylicia is about ready to transition into her new role as mom and hopefully eventually a homeschool mom. So Phylicia, thank you again. Your baby is due what, in 2-3 weeks? How many?
3 weeks. Yep, 3 weeks.
Yay! Yay! Well, congratulations. And again, thank you for taking this last little bit of time before you've got a baby in the background to stay with us and share your heart and your knowledge. We are just so very, very grateful and wish you all the best as you start this new chapter.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the rest of you, I hope that we will see you at Teach Them Diligently soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.